Okay, so here's a picture, and this picture actually comes from your book. And so if we look at this, you see how this is the ghost of knee bending past. Flexion to extension. So you see if we just extended our knee without any of this other arthrokinematics going on, we're not really going to be on a solid surface. But if we look over here, because we've got glide, a little bit of roll, a little bit of spin, then what happens is that femur seats right on top of the tibia perfectly. Okay, so this is an example of how the arthrokinematics work to give you some stability at the knee. So this was all kind of. So if you look at the tibial plateau, so here's this flat plate on the top of the tibia. That's where that femur wants to land, so it's solid. Okay. So the point here is that if you didn't have those arthrokinematics going on, you wouldn't land properly. Okay. So if something in there changes your arthrokinematics, that can change how you walk on your leg, don't you think? That would be a blown out knee. And we're going to talk about what the ligaments and everything look like in a little bit. Okay, so this screw home mechanism is a way to describe those arthrokinematics. Okay, so the medial femoral condyle is a little bit longer than the lateral femoral condyle. So if we look at a femur, if I hold this up, I don't know if you can see, this is a little bigger. The medial one is a little bit bigger than the lateral one. Okay? So that's part of where some of this comes from. Okay? So as extension occurs, that articular surface of the lateral condyle is used up while about ½ an inch remains medially. So the medial condyle must glide posteriorly to use all of its articular surface. So with knee extension and not weight-bearing position, the femur rotates medially on the tibia. Okay, so this is that rotation. So one is higher than the other, so the lateral one seats first, and then the medial one has to rotate a little bit to seat. Okay, so it's kind of like, so that's where that spin comes in. So as we start here, we're going to come up, that's going to seat first, and then we're going to rotate a little bit to seat the medial head of the femur. Okay? Don't get all wound up with this. This is one of those things that I'm using it as an illustration of arthrokinematics. But you don't really have to create a deeper understanding of it. Okay? Thank you. I can see the fright on your face. Okay.
Again.
Again, still. Okay, so during the extension in a closed chain activity, so you remember open chain versus closed chain. Closed chain is where you close the chain by stabilizing your foot on the floor. Okay, the femur is going to rotate a little bit medially, a little bit internally. In open chain activity, so the foot is not on the floor, the tibia rotates actually a little laterally. Okay. So there's a little difference whether you're weight bearing or you're not weight bearing. Okay. So the thing you have to remember is walking is alternately open chain, closed chain. I step down, I close the chain, and then I open the chain on my right leg, closed, open, closed, open. Okay? All right, we've taken a look at the femur. The reason we have to come back to it is because of this distal end, because that's what articulates, that's part of the knee articulation. Okay, any questions about the construction of the femur? Now let's look at the tibia, because we haven't really done that yet, have we? Okay, so the tibia is the distal end of the knee articulation. So, on the tibia, typically this whole area here is called the tibial plateau. It's just like what I was showing you here. Okay, here's the tibial plateau, right? We've got a lateral and medial condyle. If you look here, B and C, it's kind of probably more like an epicondyle. It's not, you know, there's like a little fossa for this to fit in. Okay, so we've got a lateral and medial area there. Intercondylar eminence, and that's going to be D. So that's going to be right at the top in this tibial plateau. So if we look at a real skeleton, basically what we're going to find is there's like two little grooves or two little pockets here for the femoral condyles, and then there's what do they call it? Intercondylar eminence. And so it's just a higher point right down the middle, just to kind of keep those two separate, keep it from sliding too far right, too far left. A little bit later on, we're going to see where there's ligaments that attach in here. Okay. E is the tibial tuberosity, so that's going to be this point right here. So that's sort of the large knotty thing just below your kneecap. The layman's way to say it. Okay, so you can feel that it's like right. So this is where your attachment for your quads is going to be. It's right here. So that tendon comes across the knee, attaches here. So your patella is going to live inside that tendon. It doesn't actually, like this is glued onto the femur. That's not really where the patella lives. The patella lives in that tendon. So part of that is to change the direction of that tendon a little bit to help it stabilize the knee. The other part of it is to protect the knee from hyperextension. Does it always work? Yeah.
No, bless you.
All right, then we've got the tibial crest, which is F, which is that line that runs. So that's your shin bone. Okay, in layman's terms, that's your shin bone. So you should be able to feel that down the front of your lower leg.
That's what I call
Okay, and then the tibia, the end of the tibia, we're going to have our medial malleolus. Okay, your lateral malleolus is going to be on the fibula. Okay, so your malleolus are your ankle bones. Okay, if you look at, okay, these your ankle bones will stick out. I'm trying out for Dancing with the Stars. Okay, so well, the whole point is you're walking around, you're a walking cheat sheet. You've got your body here, you can touch it anytime you want to figure things out. Okay. So, just to get back into the lymphedema world for a little bit, actually a lot of times what we'll do is we have what we call kidney pads. And so they're a little kidney shape and they're rounded on one side and flat on the other. And we would put the rounded side next, like we would round it right around that malleolus in order to create that indentation again. And this is for somebody that's got cankles. You can't really see the ankle because it's so swollen, so we would actually, as part of the compression process, put those little kidney shapes in there to add special compression there to really get that hollow back, so that we move the fluid out so that the ankle can work properly. Okay, let's look at our friend the fibula. Okay, so it's lateral to and smaller than the tibia. Okay, so there are some differences in how this works because you remember the forearm we had two bones too, but because we